Okay. Hello and welcome to Plugging Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugging Along, we continued improving the deed tracker plugin and the preprocessor that I use when adding new deeds. Today, though, we're going to switch over to the Festival Buddy 2 plugin and update it with the new Anniversary Festival barter items, assuming there are any. I think I remember one or two. And maybe fix an outstanding bug or two if we have the time. So as always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions. In the meantime, let me start by answering a question that came up on Little Redhead's stream, which was, how do you see stuff for purchase in the store, like expansions, or are they currently in there? So I don't actually know. I haven't checked, so we're going to check that right now. Okay, so let me go ahead and launch one of my free-to-play accounts. And we're going to go on over to, I think it's Mariotic that they're on. And see if we can get logged in here and see what happens. Okay, what do we got? Poof. Okay, well, let's choose one of the bond stains. Now, it might be that I could just go to the store right there, but sometimes if you do it at the character selection screen instead of when you're logged in, you will of course see a subset of things that only apply to your account wide and not character specific things. Maybe that would make this easier, but I like just getting the full store experience. So we're going to log in with a character and come on in down to the LOTRO store button. And let's take a look. With my whopping 130 LOTRO points, let's see what we can find. So, I'm going to guess that expansions would be under account, and we've got two expansions that are available here for purchase for this character. Now, this character has redeemed some of the thank you codes that SSG has put out in the past that unlock access to some content. And I suppose, if I were a really clever person, I could have pulled up their account on SSG's site to see what all things have been applied. But that's okay. We're just going to see that, hey, the Corsairs of Umbar and the Fate of Gundabad are currently available. Now, I think it is normal that the very newest expansions, or expansions that have recently come out, are only available for purchase for, real-world money for some period of time, 6 months, 12 months, whatever. And then after that, they become available for LOTRO points. So the fact that we're not seeing anything past Fate of Gundabad or Corsairs of Umbar here, if there is something newer, and off the top of my head, I don't remember, that's why I use the wiki. So, just do a web search for LOTRO Wiki expansion, and we're going to come down and take a look. Awesome. Legacy of Morgoth. Just came out in November 2024, so I wouldn't have expected it to be available for LOTRO points, but Corsairs of Umbar has been out a full year longer than that, and Fate of Gundabad 2 years before that. Wow, time flies. And we can see both Fate of Gundabad and Corsairs of Umbar are available. However, it's entirely possible that since everything before that is marked free to VIP or purchase, that they may have also been included some of those thank you codes that SSG put out during the summers of, pandemic years and whatnot, and that this character therefore did redeem one of those codes, giving them access to War of Three Peaks and before. And if you have access to content, they're going to try to hide that content from you in the store, so that you don't accidentally double purchase. Now, I do wish, and good point, Little Redhead points out that we can see that War of the Three Peaks and before are marked free to VIP. And so bear in chat there, if you are VIP, then you would probably not be able to see things that you already have access to. I don't know how it works if you have access via VIP, not because it's purchased. Okay. And Bear does say that they have purchased Corsairs and Before the Shadow, which would cover those two. Legacy of Morgoth I wouldn't expect to be available yet inside the LOTRO store in-game for LOTRO points, just for real-world currency. And for that, you can go to LOTRO.com, and there's usually a link in the upper right. You can click up here. Sure, now available. Take me to expansions. There we go. And in here, you'll be able to see the expansions that are available for money. And that includes Legacy of Morgoth, but I would also like to see other things. So scroll on down. And previous expansions, there we go. So the Corsairs of Umbar still available in multiple different forms. Before the Shadow still available, and the Fate of Gundabad. And you know, the Fate of Gundabad does come with a Fateful Toolkit, which I find as very helpful as I go on my landscape journey. So, recommended if you have the disposable income to do such a thing. A bear says they bought a lifetime back in the day and still log on and play for a few months a year. Want to make sure they didn't miss any of them with purchase in Game Shop. And it's probably going to get the current one for cash. Well, that makes sense. I think you are good. There is a My Account at SSG, I think. My account at standingstonegames.com. Looks like this. Probably looks better than that if you turn off the dark reader. There we go. Looks like that. And ik ben geen robot. And you know what? I'm going to try to log in here with the account that I'm currently logged in with. I'm going to do it off screen because I would prefer not to have a data spill. So, you know, if you see all my passwords, try not to use them. That would be nice. I know the captcha text I entered was incorrect. It's because I missed it. Maybe I am a robot. I know this password is correct. Let me in. Maybe I have to do the captcha after. There we go. Okay. Well, that is funny. Okay. So the character that is logged in back here is on the My Account page, has the Mordor Collector's Edition and the Shadows of Angmar Guest. I don't know what those mean. Oh, and as Little Redhead says, congratulations on having a lifetime account. That was a good purchase, as it turns out. There was always that gamble when you can get a lifetime subscription to this thing that may or may not last more than 5 years. But having lasted 18 years, that turned out pretty well. Bear says that their father got it for them. Fantastic. Okay, so looking at these expansions here. Hey, nope, other one. Okay, so looking at these expansions here in this list, we can see that that was the Shadows of Angmar Guest and the Mordor Collector's Edition. So the Mordor Collector's Edition and the Shadows of Before the Shadows Guest, it probably has some combination of these things that we're not seeing. And then Fate of the Gundabad, Corsairs of Umbar, we are seeing. Legacy of Morgoth, we don't expect to see yet. So that's where you would find it in the account under expansions. And I hope that helps. When in doubt, you can always make a secondary free-to-play account. Just, make another one. Worst case scenario, you never use it again. But you can hop in there and you can see a fresh view of the LOTRO store. I actually kind of wish that when you're browsing the store, there was at least a checkbox option to say, show me things I've already purchased, have them be grayed out, you can't accidentally buy them again. But I would love to see all the expansions available, and regardless of whether I had them or not, just as that confirmation of, oh yes, I did actually buy the thing. All the emotes, I can kind of see them being checked off because I see them all getting grayed out as I get them, all the cosmetic pets, what have you. I do wish that was a thing, but as it currently is not, sometimes it's handy to have that fresh, free-to-play account that gives you everything in the store because it has nothing. And then you can compare and contrast between the two and be like, oh, okay, that is available in the store right now. I can't see it, therefore I must have it somewhere. Cool. Okay. Well, Monstained, thank you for your service. You are done. Cool. Okay. So, we are here at one of the places where you can do bartering for festival items in the Anniversary Festival. And we are going to be working on the Festival Buddy plugin. Bear says, thanks for the info. You are very welcome. Glad we could sort that out for you. Okay, so Festival Buddy, if you are not familiar with it, is a buddy for festivals. And that is to say, it has a list of festivals here. We're going to go to Anniversary. And it has some helpers for quests. When it gets to be nighttime here, we can show off the Fireworks and Brie helper. It also has a little textual description for some things like lost invitations. And I have been fitting it out with maps for some quests. And if we have extra time today, it might be nice to go ahead and put in a map that includes those firework locations for the one that is not Fireworks and Brie, but the daytime version of that quest. However, those can be a little tricky to isolate all of them, so that's the kind of thing where it can benefit from having some extra time to pay attention to it. Okay. However, the other thing we're going to look at, no, not that window. Also not that window. That one's great. We're going to look at the barter window. Okay, so we have barter items anniversary. As festivals keep getting more and more complicated, I have been adding categories underneath things. So this was the barter items spring, and I've been adding the categories under which you find them, or even the vendors under which you find them, and then the categories underneath that. So I think we're going to follow the Yule lead here and make sure we have a section, and I'd love these to be collapsible someday. That's not on the table for today, probably. But I'd love each vendor to be collapsible and then each section under them to be collapsible, a little bit more like the actual vendors. So that's what I want to do, is bring this up to date with the more modern aesthetic that I've been developing for the last year or two of barter items. Because Anniversary hasn't had that love yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into Documents, the Lord of the Rings Online, Plugins, Cube Plugins, that's me, Festival Buddy, and we're going to come on into Source Files for the barter items. And we can see we don't yet have a file for Anniversary. Now, I have a terrible habit of writing Lua code, the plugin code that we use for Lord of the Rings Online plugins, using Excel for reasons, and we're going to continue that today. So let's go ahead and make an anniversary, and bring it on up. Now, we're going to dig into that in a little bit, but what this is going to do is this is going to allow us to produce some Lua code that is going to go into the barter, into the barter items file. And this barter items file is a list for each festival of all the things that you can purchase at that festival. And it also will have some meta information. These dividers, which are that big divider and small divider, that let us highlight as you're transitioning from one area to another. So, what we want to do is generate this information, but every time you add something or move things around, the numerical index here, we need to consistently start with 1 and increase by 1 for each row. Because if there's ever a gap, if this was 3 instead of 2, the code that we use to iterate through this table, under the covers, it just starts at 1 and just keeps on going. It says, is there a 2? Great. Okay, is there a 3? Is there a 4? And as soon as the answer to that question is no, it stops going through the table. And so if we had messed up and skipped 10, we would find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It would look for 10, it would not find it, and it would say, we're done with this table. And so we want to make sure that we're always in a good state here. And a way to do that is to have a code generator. Now, there's different ways to do this, from not doing it at all the way up to having a program that's spitting this out. And my halfway way of doing it is to use Excel. Where is my Excel? Did I close it? Oh, so weird. The button wasn't showing up on the taskbar, but I'm going to hope that that's just because I accidentally left the television plugged in and it's freaking out over that. So, unfortunately, my computer is doing this weird thing where you can plug in the television and it acts like a third display, and that's all great. But if you turn the television off, the computer doesn't say, I guess I only have 2 monitors now. It just says, I've still got 3 monitors, conceptually. And yeah, I'll go ahead and open Windows over there, and you can't see them. And it's kind of frustrating. And if there's a setting in Windows to tell it to disable that when the power goes out of that television, I haven't found it yet. So, oh well. Okay, so what we want to do is update this to say when we've last updated it, and we want to go find a vendor. Now there's 2 vendors here, and maybe there will be a whisper in my ear if there's another place that has vendors that have things that these 2 vendors don't. But in the meantime, we're going to start with the Games Master.
Oh, you're good.
I'm hearing that these 2 have everything. So this is Frithbert. Yeah. Frithbert Games Master. And under that, we're going to have a list of so many categories. Oh my goodness. I'm going to be a little lazy, take a little snip of that so that we can go ahead and get some of that in there. Okay, so what I want to do is go ahead and delete some of this. Just keep those little templates there. Alright, Little Redhead confirms the 3 by this tent have it all. There's a mounts 1 nearby. Oh, right. Thank you. Okay, so let's go ahead and delete a lot of that. And then start putting in our own stuff, knowing that we still have to do a little bit of cleanup. So this has current anniversary rewards, and we'll move on. Cosmetic rewards older. Cosmetic rewards feels like those should be in the opposite order. Other rewards, housing items. Great, that's a good start. And what we want to do is go ahead and come on into the first one. So one can just type these things, but one can also use Control right click to copy them into the chat window so that you can send it to other people. I'll make that visible just underneath here. And if you do that with enough of these, 3, 4, 5, and then come on into, into here and copy it out, let's go ahead and bring open in a spare Sublime Text Buffer. Then we can go ahead and press the correct word key and copy that over. So now we have the exact spelling of all of these things, including special characters, weird spaces, whatever, and we can make use of that going forward. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and get more of these. So that was Through the Hat of Baker's Delight. Fantastic. We'll do the next 5. And the next 5. Now you can't do too much text in the chat channel here, that's why I'm not doing all of these, why I'm breaking in between. It's just not, doesn't hold enough text to do all 20 of these in a page. That's okay. So that should be all of them for the first page. There's 13 pages because I forgot to actually hit current anniversary rewards again. So that should bring us down to the Ceremonial Great Hammer of Ruin. Great. The Plated Ceremonial Greaves. Looks like that would be the first of the next. Yes. Okay. So there's really only 18 to worry about here. But there are 13 pages in total, so that's informative. And so we have this in Sublime Text. If you don't use a more advanced text editor like Sublime Text, Notepad++, something, if you're still using Notepad or something else very basic, then I encourage you to at least consider some of the special features that more modern text editors afford you. For instance, we're going to go ahead and select every open bracket and delete it and press enter, and then we'll go ahead and select every closed bracket, go ahead and select every double new line, and we are good. Only 15 of these things? Is that possible? So that's 5 for how to delete. That's another 5 there. That's another 5. Okay, I'm missing 3 things. So did I do something wrong? I might have done something wrong. It's entirely possible. I do have 18. Yes, okay. Oh, I just didn't add a new line where I should have. Cool. Well, that's always the danger with multi-line editing, is you might mess up a whole bunch of lines at once. So I tried to do that in its own little buffer here, so I can't mess up a broader context. Okay, so we want to make sure that we have 18 spaces here, and then we're going to go ahead and bring in, I should say. I guess I needed more. Okay, all of that. Now we don't actually have the item ID yet. We'll come back to that. And there is the question of whether we want the item ID to be a decimal number or a hexadecimal number. Doesn't really matter, it's just more aesthetics than anything. And it looks like these numbers are all decimal, so a win in Rome, right? Consistency is more important than a specific way of doing it. So we want to look up all of these IDs. Great. And then we'll need to be doing things. Now, these aren't going to be Yule festivals. These are going to be anniversary token. All right. Anniversary. Now, we should double check that that's actually the name here. So, anniversary steel and anniversary festival. Okay. So, anniversary festival, that's one. Festivity, mithril, and then some special ones. So we're going to go ahead and get anniversary steel in here. Awesome. Now, for G. Okay, so concatenating 1. That should all work. Let's double check that by going ahead and doing 1, 2, 3, 4, and we can see 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. Okay. So we need a cost and we need the item. We can do the cost real fast. Dragomir says, "Love how this game aged so well. It's such a peaceful game to play. I really appreciate the aesthetic of Lord of the Rings Online, and I'm glad you do too." So we're going to go ahead and look at Baker's Delight. This can be purchased for 40 anniversary tokens. It can also be purchased for 70 mithril coins. And your mileage may vary, but that feels like a much more expensive thing to buy as a mithril coin than as anniversary tokens. Now, anniversary tokens, you may not find it super easy to get, but you might find spring tokens super easy to get. So you might come on over here to the Keeper of Gifts, do a festival token exchange, change some of your 1,000 spring leaves into a box of festival tokens, which will then have 6 anniversary tokens. Okay, that's a bit of a steep. You trade in 10, you get 6, but you got 1,000 of those. That's 600 anniversary tokens. That's not bad. And in fact, if you have the Fateful Toolkit, that's actually 7 anniversary tokens. So, Okay, back to the Games Master. Hey, Frithbert. Gonna need your data. Okay, so that's the first two. Tome of the Baker's Delight Cub. Again, that's either 20 festival tokens or 30 mithril coins. And again, your mileage may vary on which you have more of, but 30 mithril coins versus 20 festival tokens feels like a weird exchange rate. Okay, Hat of Baker's Delight, that's a 10. And then we're going to go ahead and scroll on down. And we have a number of things, 10, 10, 10, 25, 10. We're going to come on in to the next set, which is 10. And then we come on in to festivity tokens. So we want to come on in to Ceremonial Staff of the Searcher. That's where we are, 20, 20, 20, 20. And for the last three, also 20. Great. So that finishes off the costing. The last thing we need are the item numbers. Now, I have a tool, not sure if it's up to date, but we're going to go take a look at it. Visual Studio, what do you have for me? Pharaoh asks, what are you making? Well, Lord of the Rings Online supports plugins, or add-ons you might call them in other games. And the one that we're working on right now is the Festival Buddy 2 plugin. It has a list of barter items, and I'm bringing that up to date with what is currently available at the Anniversary Festival because I have a feeling that this is a little bit older, a little bit out of date. Now, usually things don't fall off of that list, but more things keep getting added. And having it be available inside a plugin as a list any time of the year means you can always link them in chat. Right click and say, hey, look at these 5 snow jars that you could buy for 5 Yield Festival tokens, and get those linked into chat because the plugin understands how to present that to the game in a way that the game says, oh, I know what that is. I can share that around. It also lets you kind of hover over things and get a sense of, do I want them? Am I interested? Oh, I already have the Snowing Evening Steed. All of that. But the list itself, there's no programmatic way for a plugin to know what things are available at a festival. So it's up to a sucker like me to go in and update it once in a while. And it's Anniversary's time. Okay, where is Visual Studio? It is somewhere. Is it on my television? Let's turn the television on and find out. It sure is. Oh my goodness, look at Visual Studio being on the wrong monitor. Okay. That's actually not the project that I wanted to load. Maybe it was this one. Still on the wrong monitor. Thanks, Visual Studio. Alright, please to be giving this a try. Okay, so we are looking for Elk of Baker's Delight. Not in there. Hat of Baker's Delight. Have I not updated these data in a while? I may not have. Let's go double check on that. Alright, where are you looking? You are looking there. Have I updated that? Let's find out. No. One more time. Hat of Baker's Delight. There it is. Okay, now that we know it works, I've exited too early. Now that we know it works, let's go ahead and generously try all of them. Wow. Yeah, I do want to do that. Thanks, Windows 11. Okay, so now some of these are saying multiples found. And if when that is the case, we might be selecting the wrong one. So we just have to remember to do that. Baron says, I tried having a generative AI tool create me a super simple LOTRO plugin just to see if it could do it. LOTRO would never load it. Would love to see a stream where you ask an AI to make a plugin and then fix it to actually work. So when I am having trouble visualizing what I need to do next to make a plugin do something that I wanted to do, my go-to, instead of a generative AI tool, is usually to go look at other plugins that do something similar or do the same thing, but not in the way that I wanted to do. For instance, and this is a example that I go to a fair amount, so some people watching may already know where I'm going, but I'm going to go ahead and load up the LOTRO plugin compendium here. And we're going to go ahead, made by Lunar Water. Thank you so much, Lunar Water. We're going to go ahead and add the Hidbolt Assistant. Fantastic. It's all done. Remember, if you add or remove a plugin while LOTRO is running, make sure to hit this little green arrow to refresh the list, and then you can load things up. Oh, you know what? I'm going to need to download the other plugin that I'm thinking of. Fool that I am. I've already closed LOTRO Companion. Past me. No. Plugin compendium. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and add in Deed Tracker, which is one of mine. Okay, so what I was looking for, or what I was doing, was one day I was looking at and or using the Hidbolt Assistant plugin. And I thought to myself, wait a second, this thing can detect when you complete a Hidbolt quest and automatically advance the progress of this tracker. And it's presenting things in a hierarchical way. Somehow it is showing a hierarchical relationship between these quests, showing the relationship. You know, having to complete some quests before other quests. And I had been thinking about a plugin for tracking the completion of deeds. And I was able to take a look at this existing plugin made by a real human and think, wait a sec, I could make changes to this to make it do what I want to do. And I know the things I want to do are possible because it's doing something very similar. And I'm able to learn how it does the thing by looking at how it works and add that information into my own experience. So by looking at the Hidbolt Assistant, and you can definitely see there's a similarity in how they look. There's a similarity in how they're presenting information. And, you know, certainly I was able to move beyond what I saw in the Hidbolt Assistant plugin and add my own touches and my own flourishes. But the bones of it are very similar, where I was able to say, hey, hierarchical information over there, I want that for my deed tracker. Presenting summaries of completion, I want that too. Automatically detecting that you completed a quest, I want that, except it's going to be deeds. Being able to show progress for different characters, loading that information so you can see how other characters are doing. That sounds great. Let's borrow that feature too. A little button that lets you open up the options. Actually, I don't think I had that, so that was a new one. Bam. Open up the options. Anyway, so I would encourage you to look at the many different plugins out there for the game of your choice, in this case, Lord of the Rings Online, and see, okay, these work, first of all. They work and they do the thing, and I want it to do something similar. Is there a way I can learn from how they're doing it and tweak it each step along the way, confirming that my plugin still works? And that way, because you're making small changes, when you do something and your plugin doesn't load, you have a very good idea what it was that you did to break it, because you've only changed a small thing. If you start from scratch with a whole bunch of code and it doesn't work, it can feel very difficult to make progress. Like, I don't know if one thing is broken or 100 things are broken, but if you changed one line and you reloaded the plugin and now it doesn't work, well, you know the problem is related to that one line change. And that makes me feel a lot more hopeful about making progress this way. If I just have little tiny changes to analyze. Farron says, hold it, did you make Deed Tracker? Yes, I did make the LOTRO Deed Tracker, but as I just mentioned, I was definitely standing on the shoulders of giants. So you're my hero. Well, those are kind words. Thank you very much. Yeah, right after the Bombadil server, where completing deeds was a major concern in order to collect those, what were they called, valor points, something like that, um, in the competition for deed completions. And I was like, doing this with spreadsheets is all very well and fine, but I would love an in-game tool that could automatically do it for you. And if I hadn't been on the Bombadil server aggressively pursuing Ariad or deed completions, maybe I wouldn't have felt so strongly about creating that plugin. And if I hadn't seen what was possible with the Hitable Assistant plugin, I wouldn't have felt confident trying to make it happen on my own. But because I could be inspired by and kind of lift a lot of the ideas around the basic UI, I was able to throw something up on the screen and then play around with the things that I needed to be different instead of doing it all from scratch. So I definitely encourage people, if they're getting into plugins, number one thing, if there's a plugin that does something similar, start there. Don't make your own plugin from scratch. Start with something that works but doesn't quite do the thing you want, and slide it in that direction. Zika says, so in general, you do a great job with your plugin work, but do you ever have time to play the game? I do try to make some time for that, especially during the anniversary festival here. It's the first time over on Treebeard that we've had access to the whole scope of the anniversary quests, all the way through the wastes. And so we're actually making progress on the non-Eriador version of the scavenger hunt. Very exciting. Planning to knock that out, not only because I'm a completionist character, I want to get it done, but also because it is consuming so many uncompleted quests in my race and social tab, which is just... So, Journey Through Middle-earth, I want to finish that. Years of Travels, Trifles, Path of the Fellowship, Unbound and no, that's something different. Yeah, okay. Those four. I want those four gone. And I know I can do at least one of... I think I can get at least one of these bugs or frogs done if I just go talk to the Minas Tirith factions. Frozen says, I'm a completionist, so I very much want to know if I have completed all the quests and deeds in an expansion. So if you don't already know about it, I encourage you to check out the LOTRO Companion. It is a third-party program that you can download onto your desktop, and it allows you to do an import of a character in a LOTRO instance that is running, and it'll kind of poke around in memory and check out what things you have done. And so we can see it kind of working right now. If you have not recently opened up your vault, your shared storage, or your wardrobe, those contents will not have been pulled down from the server, and so it will just say, oh, I didn't find it. And I don't have housing information, apparently. That's another one. But once you've done that, you can open up your character and go on over to, for instance, quests, and get a sense of how many quests that are in the game that you have completed. Now, LOTRO Companion doesn't always know if a quest is possible for you to complete. Maybe you don't have the that special Rohan expansion that gives you access to the Descendants quest line or something. But we can at least come in here and say, okay, I just want to see the ones I have not completed. I don't want to see any hidden quests. And really, I'm just trying to make sure I've done everything in Breland. So let's kind of go over to Breland. Cool, I did all 182 quests in Breland. Okay, what about Arid Loon? Okay, cool. I did all the ones in Arid Loon. And you can kind of work your way through. Now, these are pretty close to corresponding to the actual regions in the game, but what these actually are the labels in your quest log. So if we come on over here and come into Anniversary Event, we can see that I have not completed a bunch of them, and most of them are the year 10, 11, I'm in the middle of 7, 8, and 9 quests. And the Standing Stone, spoilers, Scavenger Hunt, Wrappers, Gifts, a Pint of Ale. Oh, it's underway. I have completed it, but it is also in my quest log. And a Flurry of Fireworks daily? Yeah, maybe. So that's an example of, if you're willing to download a third-party program, it is a very useful way to kind of step in and grab all that information and display it in a different way. Something I might be concerned about is the wastes, because, let's go to you. We're currently progressing through that over here on Treebeard, so I can see, okay, in the wastes, I've completed all 3 of the ones just in wastes. In Daggerlod, The only ones I have left are the elite area, Langruven, that is kind of a fellowship area, and we're not really doing that right now. The Noman lands need to finish continued culling, cool, and the Slag Hills looks like I have some of those repeatable quests. And one of the things you can do is come in here and say, don't show me repeatable quests. Cool, got 2 of them to do. Fern says, so what you're telling me is you have all the data to make a quest tracker plugin. I will pay you. It's definitely been on my mind as a thing, as a companion to the deed tracker plugin. But as there are, let's see, if we come in here and look at deeds, there are 4,000, almost 500 deeds in the LOTRO data files. Not all of them are accessible to any particular character, but most of them are. So let's say around 4,000 deeds available. But if we come on into quests, it's usually more like 14,000. So it's like a factor of 3 more quests than deeds. And it's a lot of data. And also, one of the things that attracted me to the Deed Tracker plugin was the ability to represent things hierarchically. To say, okay, if you complete Breland Adventure, you must have a completed Breland Adventure base. And if you're going to complete Explorer Breland, you have to complete these 6 deeds. That was something I felt was lacking in the in-game version of the deed log, where if you come on into Eriador Breland and just look at these things, they're not sorted by quest chains, they're sorted by type, first of all. So these are all the lore deeds, you can see by the icon, and then they're sorted alphabetically. And, that's certainly a way to do it, but it meant that Explorer of Breland, which is a exploration, has things like, where was it? Flowers of the Old Forest, is that in there? Yeah, Flowers of the Old Forest, which is not an exploration, it's something else type deed. I can't remember what that symbol means. And that means that the default sorting in the in-game deed log wasn't really satisfying that need of mine to understand the relationship between different deeds. Instead of by typing them alphabetically, I wanted to see it hierarchically. And so that was one of the big things. And if I couldn't do that with quests, if I couldn't track those quest chains that says, in order to complete this, you have to complete this, you have to complete this, you have to complete this, and have a reasonable way to display that, but more importantly, automatically generate it, because doing that all by hand is a nightmare. So these are all concerns that I have. So it's not impossible. It's not going to happen this quarter, but it's definitely something I've been thinking about as another challenge for doing plugins. And also, there are some people's computers who struggle, they say, loading up the Deed Tracker plugin and having it running because it does consume a lot of memory. We're kind of duplicating a bunch of data that LOTRO already has in plugin land. And so it would be that only more extreme. And at a certain point, plugins might reach a point where LOTRO is just like, no, you can't load all that data. You're not allowed. And so having a graceful way to deal with that would also be nice. And there's ways to do it. For instance, if you are level 50, there are a whole bunch of quests that we don't need to load. And so I think there's optimizations to be had. And also, we could be smart about it. If you've completed this long list of quests here, then as we're loading information about those quests, we could probably have a checkbox somewhere that says, don't load information about completed quests. We only care about uncompleted ones because we're completionists. And we can use the in-game quest log if we really need to. So you could have it be a little bit smarter about these things. But again, in order for a plugin to be smart about something, you have to write code that makes it smarter. It doesn't do that by default. Yeah, 401 says you'd have to categorize their quests. Absolutely. So, instead of having quests listed by area, maybe in the data files that you're loading, they're actually organized by level. And then as you're loading them, you're putting them into the right place in that categorization tree. And then you stop loading once you hit quests that are beyond your level. Maybe that's the way to do it. Of course, that means it would get slower and slower the higher level you are. But if you're able to discard things that you've already completed, then maybe higher level you are, but you've completed a bunch of quests, it kind of keeps up with itself. So absolutely, these are things that I've been thinking about. And until I'm convinced I can make something that is reasonable to use and reasonable to maintain, I've been kind of like, maybe not yet. Okay. Great question. Thanks for asking. So, in short, I do look to others for inspiration. I tend not to do generative AI type tools. I tend to look at other plugin developers and see what they're up to and see if there are things there that I can borrow. Okay, so Festival Buddy, barter window. We were just looking up the IDs for, wow, so many windows open. So we have a bunch of IDs here, but we do know that a couple of these had a couple of different IDs, and we want to be careful about that. So we're going to go ahead and that is so odd. Oh, I see. Okay. Farron said, sorry for distracting you. No worries. That's why we're here, is to talk about Lord of the Rings Online. And if I'm lucky, also make some progress on a plugin. But ultimately, if I spent the whole time just talking about things that are interesting, it feels like a win. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to get these IDs into our spreadsheet. But what I'm noticing is I've made it a little bit difficult for myself. In that, I would very much like to have a separator before the first one that is different from a follow-up separator. So what we're going to do is we're going to come on into the combiner program that is doing this. We're going to search for that tilde, and we're going to go ahead and say, you know what, constraint first separator equals something different than a tilde. How about an octothorpe? Love a good octothorpe. And we're going to go ahead and use that the first time that we would normally use a separator. Okay. So first separator and then first separator. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And actually remember to run it. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. We're going to come back to it in a moment. I thought I asked you to run, please. Okay, there we go. Cool. So now we have an octothorpe separating the first time and then a tilde for the rest of them. So we're going to come on in here and go ahead and do a multi-select on the octothorpe, and that gives us a way to select those keys. But what we are seeing is that some of them, like the Baker's Delight Garments gift wrap selection box, is not giving us all of the information we would like. So for that, I think we're just going to go ahead and open up that file. Feel like there's a better file for me to be using now. Awesome. And pull that number in. Now, in here, what we want to do is any of these other places where there were multiples, let's go ahead and check this. So that's the elk of Baker's Delight. Great. And Tome of the Baker's Delight, Cub. That one looks like it was right. Okay, were there any others that came with multiples? Just that one. Okay, so this file didn't exist, I don't think, at the time that I was writing this. So yeah, it would probably be better to make use of those. Although I do see, maybe it is just looking there. No, it's definitely not. Have to think about that. Okay, but in the meantime, we have gotten IDs for that first page, and we have the stuff here. So let's go ahead and copy down the formula generation items. You know what? Let me go ahead and say festival tokens. So we're going to go ahead and copy this. All of those over. Perfect. And then we can go ahead and copy out the generated Lua for anniversary, swap it in, and then, see, does that seem correct? Wow, that was all we had for anniversary? 50 items does not seem like enough. Alright, so we went ahead and swapped that out. Let's go ahead and unload everything, load Festival Buddy back up, and come look at the barter window. We can see we're on the wrong festival, for one thing. Great. Frithbert, Games Master, awesome. Let's come in to the current anniversary rewards and just double check. So, Elka Baker's Delight, 40, 70. Tome of the Baker's Delight Cub, 20 and 30. Hat of Baker's Delight, we have a 10, 10, 10, 10, 25, 10, 10, 10, 10, 25 for the dining table. Awesome. Looking good so far, 2020. And then the Ceremony Board tooth. The rest is 20 all the way down. Fantastic. Another Redhead says 13 pages of items now, I believe. Yeah, I don't think this this part of the list has been updated for a little while. So, we're going to take a stab at it with all these ceremonial weapons. Okay, so that is all looking great. But post-processor, noticing it had a little, maybe we could do an update that takes advantage of this items file here. So where are we doing this? Okay, so we say inner labels blank to proceed. But how are we getting into here? Labels equals new label loader. Okay, so we're loading from the path, which is lore. And what does that look like? Okay, so this is loading up stuff and things from the data path, okay, and in labels. And we are looking at labels, we are looking at EN, that's great, but what else do we load? Labels for each lang, they're in there. If lang is not, and language box contains that, or does not contain it then. Language load language keys. Okay, I would kind of like to just do an items version of this. So let's add a flag for this. So public enum label types, and we're going to say unknown equals 0, because I do like starting with an unknown in my enums. Then we're going to go items, only items equals 1, and everything equals, well, let's say 99. Great. So we're going to take a label types parameter in this new function. And after I get to about 2 parameters in a function, I tend to want to have 1 per line, because otherwise I just have the darndest time trying to keep straight what the parameters to this function are and have that in my head. So it takes more vertical space, and I mean that can be a warning sign if you have 10 different parameters to a function. That could be a warning sign that you have so many parameters, and when they're just scrolling off to the right, you don't really pay that much attention to it. So we're going to take label types equals, and we're going to default to everything. Great. So now we have a way to specify just the items. We're going to go ahead and pass that on. So label types to this secondary function. And in this function, again, now that we're hitting a 3rd parameter, I'm just going to go ahead and space it out. Great. So for each one, and we're going to say if key file equals, if label types equals only items, and key file equals items.xml. Well, I should say not equals. What is key file here? Oh, it's a file info. Fascinating. Continue. Now, I don't know that what I just wrote is 100% correct, so what we're going to do is we're going to set a breakpoint, and we're just going to launch this and see what it looks like. So adding keys for en. Well, for one thing, we didn't even hit that. That's because we forgot to throw that parameter into here. So when we're coming on in here, we want to make sure, because we added a default value for that, so we want to go ahead and say that this is only items, and then come back in, rerun it, and that's going to give us that breakpoint. So now we know that we've hit the code, and we can say, okay, label types is only items, great, key file, name, allegiances, XML. So we're going to actually continue. Continue in this context means skip the rest of this body of this loop and skip around to the next time. So we immediately skip around, and now the key file name is barterers. Great. So what that means is we should only get to this next part if, and only if that file is items. And that means we're skipping all the other things. Well, fantastic. Let's do that. Okay, so if we come back in here and go ahead and paste these things, then what we should expect is all these items now match the final versions over here. 804, great. 811, all the way down to 820. Now, we do see a very suspicious sequence here where we have 3819, 3820, 3817, 3818. These items all seem like they were added at about the same time on the SSG side of things because they have sequential numerical IDs. It's not always guaranteed to be the case. Maybe someone was noodling on something 2 years ago and that ID is going to be a lot smaller. But in general, seeing this block of IDs like this isn't very surprising. It doesn't matter at all as a plugin developer. It's just one of those things that is interesting. So we have 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, and 33. Those other IDs are probably somewhere in these pages. Maybe they were mounts. Okay, awesome. So we have the internal IDs, and now we have a better way to make them show up. So let's go ahead and start processing a little bit faster the next couple of pages. So we're going to do that. Again, we're going to come back into the game, and we're just going to let the game do a lot of the work for us. As soon as I minimize so many windows. Oh my goodness. Okay, cosmetic rewards older. So again, we're going to use the control right-click ability for the game to let us just copy-paste this text instead of trying to type it ourselves. Because we don't want to make mistakes. And not that one, although, you know what? That one can just go away. We don't want to make mistakes when typing this, and it's just easier to not type it. Both of these things are true. Okay, coming on into the next line of the next 5 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the next ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're actually so long that I only got 4 of them. Nope, I just forgot to clear the previous line that I had already put in there. Much better. All right. It's the first 15, and it looks like we have 2 pages. So this first page is all 20. And then on the second page, we have another so many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. And finally, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think coincidentally there were another 20. Great. So those are all of those. Now, again, we're going to do a multi-edit. We're expecting to see 40 of these things. So we're going to go ahead and select all of the close open brackets and just make them into new lines. Select all the open ones and delete. Select all the closed ones and delete. And then go ahead and delete that new line here. So that gives us just 40 of these things. We're going to go ahead and copy them into this spreadsheet. Now we know we need 40. We currently have not that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we want to go ahead and add another 10 lines here. Sure messed that one up somehow. We're going to just add some more lines just to... What is going on here? Oh, that's... Yeah. I remember what I did. Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and make that bigger. So that's 20 lines, and we actually wanted 40 lines. My goodness. Okay, we have this now. We're going to go ahead and paste this into our console here, and that's going to give us all of the IDs that we're looking for. I think. One way to find out. Okay, so we have all of these. We're going to go ahead and again separate that, multi-select based on the octothorpe, and then go ahead and select the ID off of that. Bring it on in here, and that gives us our IDs. But what we don't have are the costs. So let's go ahead and, I guess, put that over there. Bring this window over a little bit and go back to the top of page 1. So we can see the first 5 are just 10 of the festival tokens. So 10, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then the next ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more. And then finally, oh, that's almost consistent. We have 10, 10, 10, 5, and 7 for the Teal Spark Makers pack. Okay, coming onto the second page, we can see another 7, 7, 10, 10, 10, and possibly a bunch of 10s. Possibly not. 10, 7, 15, 10, 10. Fantastic. Patterned U in a box. Yep, we are in sync there. Seven and 7. And a bunch of other ones. Cool. So that gets us all of that. Now, these are all anniversary tokens. That's nice and simple. And we can go ahead and bring down that code generation. And go ahead and just make sure everything's on the right track. So we're going to go ahead and replace these lines with the 61 new lines. And then unload, reload, and check it back out. So we have our barter items. And we can see here, coming in at the start with the plated ceremonial greaves, and coming on all the way down to the cloak of the shining star. 444, 55. Looks like those numbers are in there as well. Fantastic. I was kicking up a lot of dust earlier doing some cleaning, and I think my sinuses are not thanking me. But we're going to go on to cosmetic rewards and see how much further we can get before I wave the white flag. Okay, so cosmetic rewards. Just looking at this, we know we have 20 on the first page and another 5 on the second page, so we need this to have 25 spaces here. We have 6 spaces, so we're going to add another, whatever that is, 15 spaces. In Excel, you can highlight a number of rows and then say insert, and you get that number back out. We can see here we have 21. Did my math wrong, so we need another 4. Cool. And then we just do the same thing that we have been doing, which is to say right-clicking these items. Now, I'm doing this in a kinship chat because if I accidentally press enter and send it, I don't want to spam world with that. That seems impolite. Depends on the server. On this server, I think people will be like, hey, someone's talking in world. Because right now on Treebeard, world chat is a little quiet. But in principle, you know? Okay. So that's the first, no, that's the last 5. I've done this incorrectly. It's fine, I needed it eventually. Coming back to the first page, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Second page, and I like to select the line that I finished with so that as that scrolls up, I don't lose it. Okay, that's the second one. That's the third set, and we're looking for the last set here. We were doing anniversary quests, and it took us into Moria, so I had to mount up on a goat. And now I am hearing a goat. Actually, it might be all the other mounts that I'm standing next to. Hi, Windfell's goat. Alright, at least I'm not contributing to the problem. Okay, so that's the Helm of Crystal Resolve all the way to the ceremonial hooded cloak of Remembrance. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do the same thing, where we find all the interstitials, just determine new lines, find all the starts, delete them, find all the ends, delete them, and then we have our 25 lines here. We're going to copy that into Excel, and that's going to be the new category. Bloop. Then we can see, thanks to some conditional formatting that I already had applied to the spreadsheet, that some of these items are in here as duplicates. So the new rewards have also been filed in under some other categories. And the hat of Baker's Delight, jacket leggings, shoes, a Baker's Delight. These are all things that can be found in the current anniversary rewards. That's to be expected because what's current will eventually not be current. These will be dispersed out or really just removed from current and new ones are added in. And so they'll still have their home under cosmetic rewards even in the future. In the meantime, let's go ahead and get those new IDs. So we're going to copy them out. Now, if I wanted to, I could redo this so it just spits out the IDs. Kind of tempting, actually. Yeah, you know what? Let's do that. We're having fun. We're doing some changes here. In here, we're going to go ahead and let's see. Load language, we did that. Right, where is the octothorpe being used? It's being used elsewhere. It's being used in program. That's what it is. Okay, so octothorpe's being used. So what we really just want to do is just output the ID so it can be copied into Excel. Cool. So the label, we don't want the label. Where was this? We don't want the label. We don't want the first separator. We want the results. Yeah, okay. So console.writeLine of stuff. And really just results 0. Unexpected token. Yeah, that's fair. Forgot to close brace that. Okay, so And you know what? We're going to include that more than one. Because if we did find more than one, we would like to know about that. And you know what? There was a build error. Someone was holding down the E key. It was me. Okay. Now, we've got our please give us the lines to process. We're going to go ahead and put these in. Oh, man. How do I get that to stop? Are there settings somewhere in this thing? Not start up. Hang on a sec. Windows 11 command prompt don't warn when pasting. We're going to see if that brings anything. Although actions, it's not actually what I want. Okay. Remove trailing white space when pasting. That's probably fine. Um, hold shift when hitting settings? Is that real? That seems a few years old. Okay, apparently there is a settings parameter for multi-line paste warning that can be set to false. However, people are saying do shift settings, and that did not work for me. Oh, it's down here. It's right under my head. It says OpenJSON file. Great. Let's go fix that. So, paste. At the root setting is not under any other key. Add multi-line paste warning false. Don't mind if I do. Thank you. Okay. So, I don't know if one needs to restart for this. So we're not going to bother, and we'll see what happens. Okay. So, just for the heck of it, we're going to come on in here, and hey, it worked. Thank goodness. We're going to come on in here and copy those out, and I want to make sure that we don't have a bunch of excess white space. We don't, but we do have 25 IDs. Let's go ahead and make that a little taller, and bam. And then we also want to make sure we get the costs associated with these. Now I'm seeing a lot of 10s. The first some are 10, first 10 are 10, 10, 10, 10. Okay. Great. 10s all the way through the first 20. And I just want to make sure that these other tokens aren't sneaking in here. Great. Okay, so we found a bunch of 10s. Let's see what's going on the last page. Also 10s. Wow. Thank you for the consistency. And that means that we're done with that page. Awesome. Other rewards. Other rewards. Okay, so we know that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of these. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines already. Let's go ahead and add 2 more. Not like that. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. We might get this all in one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now, notice that some of these are coming with more than one of a thing. 5 fireworks, for instance. So, let's go ahead and prep this. Oh man, you know what? It might be a good idea to accept this. That's more work than I'm willing to do right now, but it might be. So, let's go ahead and recognize that we're getting 5 things for each of these. Now we can do that with the count. So 5, 5, 5, 5, and then we're going to go ahead and delete that from that name there. And then we're going to go ahead and get the IDs. And we might actually have a problem with those plurals. Maybe not. Wow, some of these are wild. So let's go ahead and do it the old-fashioned way. There's only a few of them. Okay, so that one has a straightforward answer for what it is. Finally, rock carrying torches, however. Nope, that one's fine. Is it? That is not great for my use. Well, let's dig into that. Sahara asks a question that I think is probably targeted more towards the developers at SSG, which sadly I do not work for SSG and can't speak on their behalf. But the more generic answer is that Standing Stone Games is in general trying to tweak all of the classes to make sure that they all are a good playing experience and also are viable for those end game raids or dungeons where people are maybe a little bit more choosy about who they are bringing for certain challenges. And so if you feel like wardens are not at that place where they're desirable in endgame content, then a great place to talk about that is over on the Lord of the Rings Online forums or in the official Lord of the Rings Online Discord. I wonder if that link works. Yeah, you can see a link to the Discord there as well. So a much better place to talk about it is there, where developers can hear your ideas of where the class has its strengths and weaknesses, and maybe take that into account in future developments. But the slightly more nuanced answer is that at any given time, Standing Stone Games has about 102 things that they want to work on, and bandwidth for about 37 of them. And I'm making those numbers up, of course, but if they could wave a magic wand, class rebalancing would be a much more rapid thing, I suspect, than it currently is, because they're trying to balance that with everything else that they're doing. But I assume they also are trying to do it in a kind of a methodical way, where they don't just change a bunch of stuff and see what happens and then change a bunch of stuff a week later, where they want there to be a little bit of stability in the game world. So that they make a change, they do it with a lot of forethought. It doesn't always work out the way they think it will, but they think about it a lot, they make some changes, they look and they see how it affects the gameplay, they look at the statistics, as the numbers that they can see, they listen to players comment about how they feel about it. And so it necessarily is a slower process than just change a bunch of things and see what happens. And also they tend to pay more attention to one or two classes at a time rather than try to do a little bit to all of the classes at a time. And so you can find out a little bit more information in the roadmap if you haven't seen it. Let's see if Letter works. Hey, Letter works. So let's go ahead and open that up. Maybe in a different browser window, though. Here we go. Okay, so they are trying to do quarterly letters where they spell out some of their visions for the near future in Lord of the Rings Online. And so they tend to have a little bit of a roadmap here with a few more details in the near future, and decreasing details over time as they have broad stroke ideas, but maybe don't have as much certainty about what other things that they can do. So we can see under class updates, they're definitely working on now, or thinking about now, Hunter and Burglar, and I don't see Warden on there, so it may not be something that they're actively working on right now. But that doesn't mean they're not thinking about it, and it doesn't mean that it won't come later, just that they're not explicitly trying to make it a goal for whatever time period. That being said, if Warden is your one true love and it's the only class you play, I can respect that. I've tried Warden a little bit, and I think it's an engaging concept, but I just can't tear myself away from Minstrel for very long. But I would encourage you to consider having 2 or 3 classes that you feel comfortable playing in a game like Lord of the Rings Online, so that if you ever feel like, oh, Warden's not as powerful as I want it to be, or I'm actually getting a little bit tired of it, I want to have something else, you have that backup ready to go, where you're like, oh, you don't want Warden, how about Lore Master, how about Minstrel, how about this other thing that I really enjoy playing as well, and we can just swap that in. Now, you may not have the time for it, you may not have the interest for it, but if you have both of those things, and just haven't thought about branching out a little bit, that can be a self-driven approach to having a little redundancy in case people are suddenly like, we want the Warden. Okay, cool. If they're suddenly like, we don't want the Warden, you're like, okay, how about this other thing that I also really enjoy playing? Anyway, just some ideas there. Talk to the developers in a place where they'll have a better chance of hearing you. That's the forums. That's the Discord server. And good luck to you in your wardening activities. Hello, little one. What's up? Yeah? Are you coming to visit me, little cat? Why do you stop behind me? I can't see you. You know I can't see you. Hey. Come on. Let's annoy you to no end. I know. Oh, now you're caught on my microphone. You stole my microphone, little one. Yes, you did. Oh, you're terrible. You're so bad at dismounts. That's okay. We'll try to practice. In the meantime, let's reward you for being harassed. There you go. Really, I'm just trying to get rid of these treats. We bought like a box of them when we first got the cats, and we're not going through them nearly as quickly as we thought we were, and I just want them out of my life. Okay, so, excellent question, thanks. Sorry I don't have more specific information for you, but I'm glad that you care enough about the classes that you're playing that you want to see them even better than they already are. Okay, in the meantime, what's up with these friendly rot carrying torches? Okay. So anything that's a consumable for a deed might be messing things up. Eagle fireworks. Oh, wow, there's 2 of them. That's fantastic. Map to Brie anniversary. What do we have here? Just the one. Okay. Pile of mysterious powder. That one's confusing to me. That one's very confusing. Oh, you know what it is? It is probably pile of mysterious powder in the singular. Yeah, that was my bad for not singularizing it correctly. In fact, that's probably the problem here. No? Yes. There we have that 33. Okay, so that was a pluralization problem. So let's go ahead and fix that. Mighty Ram fireworks. Okay. Eagle fireworks. That's great. Map to Brie anniversary. Should be fine. Yep. But this one, piles of mysterious powder. That was pile of mysterious powder. And I'm guessing the problem there was fireworks. So let's go ahead and do firework. No, it is fireworks. Oh, consistently inconsistent sometimes, but that's okay. Great. So we have all of that. Let's go ahead and get the costs for these. And that was 40. Are these single use? Probably. Okay, so that is 40. That is 5, 40, 1, 1, 5, and 5. I should probably get some of this mysterious powder, since my main is finally a scholar and can actually make the stuff. Okay, let's go ahead and import this in and make sure it's doing what we want it to do. Okay, so coming on down to other rewards. Mighty Ram Fireworks looks great. 5 finely wrought carrying torches. Eagle, map debris, piles of mysterious. 5, 5 for 5, 5. All of that's looking great. Kind of disappointed that the cost of 1 doesn't show up here. I'm not sure if that's actually something we can do though. We can see though that the third, okay, so let's take a look at this. Not in barter items itself, but in barter win. Okay, so we're setting the quantity even if it's 1? Are we setting? No, I don't think we're setting it. How does that actually look though? 3 equals 1. That was the Eagle Fireworks. Okay. I think that is a nature of the game not showing a 1 there, and that's probably for the best. Okay. Housing items. 2 pages. Okay. Given the number of pages that are left, I think that I'm not going to be able to finish them well on stream. And this is a pretty good breaking point, or approaching it. So while I'm working my way through housing items, I think this is a great time if you've got any last minute questions, comments, concerns, throw them into chat so we can think about them, talk about them before the end of the stream. But then after we're done with the housing items tab, and if any questions come in, we'll talk about those. I think we'll go ahead and bring the stream to a close, and then we'll pick it up again either next week, or I'll probably just finish off adding these items during the week, and we'll move on to something else. I guess it depends on how much spare time I have for festival and plugin development at the same time. Not to mention, there's only 14 days left on the Legendary Item Reward Track number 13, so this is your 2-week notice that if you're trying to get to any particular value. Number 50, for instance, is your Legendary Coffer of the Emerald Drakeling. 75 is usually another good one. Legendary Coffer of Glorious Memories of Gondor. And number 100 is your Legendary Coffer of the Water Buffalo family. So if you're looking to get any of those, 14 days is still a viable amount of time to work through the Legendary Item Reward track, but it is kind of stretching what is plausible if you haven't even started on a server. Yesterday I did a lot of missions, and managed to get about 8 boxes of progression. I have a spreadsheet that tracks these things. Got about 8 boxes of progression, but it did take me several hours to do it. Now with 8 boxes of progression, you can do the whole track in 12 and a half days, and you've got 14 days left. But You gotta keep on pushing through to get that, or remember to actually use your items that say that they increase your legendary item rewards. So, for instance, where on earth did I put it? I'm not wearing it, am I? Ear. There we go. So the Fleet Merchant's Earring says plus 25% legendary item and mounted combat experience, assuming that is correctly being applied. And if you had 2 of these, then you could get plus 50% legendary item experience. Apply that to those boxes. Maybe that's 12 boxes a day, but that's still 8 days of heavy missioning or other questing to get through that. So, plan ahead, plan accordingly. Okay, we're going to come on in to housing items. I'm going to delete what's currently here. And we know we have 20 on the first page and another 5, 10, 15, and 20. So we're looking for 40 here. We've got 36, so we're going to go ahead and add another 4. Great. So, same thing as always, we're just going to go ahead and control right click these to get them into chat. Copy them out of chat window in the game and paste them on into wherever I'm putting them here. There we go. So that's the first one. Let's go ahead and keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to say these are involved in the map deeds, though I may have, they may not all be, but I think at least some of them are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, page number 2. Fireplace of the Dragon's Horde? Does that dragon breathe at you? Oh, I've copied the wrong thing. There we go. Alright, so that is all 20 on both pages. What we're going to do is we're going to multi-select the close open brackets, multi-select the open brackets, multi-select the close brackets, and that gets us completion here. Now, I wasn't paying a lot of attention, but I didn't see any getting multiple items, nope, for a single purchase. So that makes that a little bit easier. We're going to copy paste these names into Excel. Everything looks great there. We're then going to copy them into our little tool here. We've got those IDs. We're going to copy those in Excel. And then we just need the expenses. So looks like a lot of these are going to be 5. 2, 5. Okay. Until map of Breland. What on earth? Okay, map of Breland. Down to the Lone Lands. And then 20 for the large Moria mirror. Coming on to the next page, we have 10, 10, 4, 4, 10 for the glorious beer mug trophy. 20, 20, 25, 25, 7. 10, 10, 10, 10, 20, 10. No, I'm offset a little bit here. Explosive fireworks cake was 10. Wooden fireworks stand with that 10. Explosive fireworks thrown is 20, and then 10. Okay. And then the last 5, 20, 20, 25, 10, and 10. Okay. Nothing strange going on there. But that's the general gist of what we are doing. And that takes us through housing items, which means we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 categories to go. And it's all just the same as this. Get the game to tell us the thing so we can copy paste that, not have any typos. Use those names to look up the item in our database to get the internal ID. Because if we have that ID, a plugin can tell LOTRO, please present this thing to the player and have it be interactable to some degree. You can hover over it, see you already have it. You can link it in chat. You can see that in-game text for it. And that means we don't need to have translations of these things. With a single number, we can present it to the user in English, French, or German based on their client language. And we get that for free because we're using the item ID instead of trying to construct something else. We also get the image of it as well. So that interactability, if SSG updates the image, we get that for free. One thing we don't get is if they change the cost. So it's good to review this every couple of years to make sure the costs of things we know about haven't changed too much. Okay. Neat. Well, like I said, I think this is a good breaking point since I don't think I have time to complete everything, and my throat is bothering me a little bit. I think stirring up all that dust and breathing it, not a great idea, not recommended. So that is everything we are going to cover today. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. I do hope to see you all here next week, where the Anniversary Festival will still be active in Lord of the Rings Online. And until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.